and welcome to 99 Yards, American football for UK fans. I'm your host, Liz Bandari, and this week I'm joined by Ben Rolfe, Duncan Terry and Shona Duthie. How are you all?
Good, thank you. I'm really looking forward to talking about the Super Bowl and building up to the week.
Yeah, I'm good too. Looking forward to a great show. We've got great guests for you. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, really good, thank you. And I would rather not see Brady win a sixth ring, but I'm going to see it probably.
Excellent stuff. Well, it's great to have you all on. And Ben, this is your first pod of us, and as you're one of our Patriots fans, how has the build-up been for you this week?
So far, it hasn't got too much. I mean, I don't hate the Rams. I have no real animosity towards them. Like when it was the Falcons, it was the same. Whereas like the Seahawks and the Eagles, it was slightly different. I know I'm talking to Seahawks fans here, and that's a dangerous thing to say. But they were teams that in a way I didn't like. I like the Rams. I like the personalities on the Rams. The Seahawks and the Eagles were easier to dislike some of the personalities. It's very hard with the Rams. The only person I can cling on to is Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. But other than that, it's very hard to get passionate when you don't hate the other team. I'm sure as it gets closer to the game, I will. But at this stage, I'm just enjoying it as a fan. I mean, couldn't have asked for any more. And when win or lose, it's been a great ride with the Patriots. And whether this carries on for another couple of years, who knows? But it'll be upsetting if we lose. It was after last year. But I'm looking forward to just trying to enjoy the game, and hopefully it'll be a great spectacle.
Nice one, Ben, and best of luck to your team on Sunday. Now, in this week's episode, we'll be talking about the upcoming Super Bowl, as well as an interview with one of the best players to have ever played in the game. That's right, we'll be talking to Jerry Rice. He'll be giving us his thoughts on the upcoming game, as well as delving into how the NFL offense has evolved over time. But first, it's a real pleasure to have with us Around the NFL podcast legend, Marc Sessler. Thanks for joining us, Marc. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys? I'm on a very busy street in the middle of Los Angeles, so I'm praying that no massive trucks or police engines, anything, no sort of major sound issues. Let's hope it goes well.
Are you shopping?
Yes, basically.
So, are you ready and raring to go for another Patriots Super Bowl, or are you becoming a bit wary?
I think it's, there's sort of two minds on that because, yes, I think, while it's an absolute pleasure to go cover these Super Bowls, I mean, really, there's no complaints around that. It's always different and always special and always like something you could never imagine. The storyline angle is tough with the Patriots because it's sort of just, it's one thing if they had been there this many times with a lot of different teams in between. But when you get 3 years in a row, it's like, well, we just did this last year storyline-wise. And there's weariness, I think, of just there's this overall public sentiment that we're tired of the Patriots. We want new things. And I get all that. And I feel that at times myself, especially, growing up a Browns fan. It's like, get out of the way, please. Some other teams step in here, right? But there's a whole other side to it where having been to some of these Super Bowls, and the one that comes to mind especially is Tom Brady when he took down the Seahawks and the way that entire game played out. And before that game started, because that was right after the whole Deflategate business and all that stuff broke during Super Bowl week, which created total chaos. And that crowd in Arizona was so amped up. And when they saw Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, they were given incredible cheers, and people went nuts. And then they showed Belichick, who was walking down a tunnel with his hoodie on, and it was just like they talk about him, like the Emperor descending from a tunnel, and everyone went nuts and crazy. And so I still think for me that being able to see what is the best football dynasty of our lifetime, operate that way. I think that's something that when I'm old and done with all of this, I'll look back and feel lucky to have been to it. From that angle, there's no exhaustion. It's like, let's do another one. I kind of can't help but start to root for Brady at the Patriots at some point to just keep piling them on because they're making intense history.
Yeah, you're right there. It is history. But I'm a little bit like, can you say, it's hard to know sometimes whether to be impressed or to be jealous.
Yeah, and
right,
I think you give us all the bad traumatic memories there, Mark, of the Seahawks losing at that Super Bowl to Brady.
Did you know you're three Seahawks fans?
Yeah, well, it's listen. Yeah, I think the Seahawks, in terms of their Super Bowl window, with Russell Wilson, they can always get back to, I think they have one of the best coaches still. But they, it shows you how those windows come open and close very quickly for a team like that.
Yeah, 100%.
So despite their fair share of losses, we have seen this show from the Patriots before. Is it down to the Rams to show us something new? Like I know last year, obviously, they did lose to the Eagles, obviously with the Nick Foles Philly special. So is it a case of Pat's experience versus a high-energy first-time innocence?
I just trust the Patriots. I mean, we've already seen it in these past 2 weeks where the way that they, the whole narrative was this might be the end. The Patriots are 11-5. Tom Brady is showing signs of decline. Rob Gronkowski wants to retire to become an actor. You can feel the whole thing sort of shifting somewhere off the grid, and New England might be done. But then comes these past 2 playoff games, and you just realize that there is no team in the league that can prepare as well as New England. I still think that they're 5 years ahead of every other team out there. They can have their down years, and injuries can pile up, and maybe that can affect them, but they seem to overcome everything. I thought when they lost Josh Gordon, that might be the end of their offense, and who cares about Josh Gordon right now? It's like they're even better without him. So they're so flexible and so adaptable that I never really could imagine. And the Rams, to me, are very well coached too, and they are new, and there's something to be said for that. But I'd always give the edge to a cast of coaches and players that it's in their normal biorhythm to be here every last week of January into February. It's just part of their season. It's not like a peak experience almost. It's like, yes, of course they'll be here. And their seasons are 20 weeks long. They're not 16, and they're not, home on their couch by January 4th wondering, what to do with their off season. It's like they always have another month packed in, and like their Super Bowls have always been close. So teams can hang with them. I think that it's like they don't go and blow people out in the Super Bowl. So I expect a close game, but they're the best coached team in football when it comes down to the final 10, 5, and 2 minutes of a game, much less overtime.
Mark, we've seen Tom Brady handle Bosa, Ingram, and the Chargers and his O-line as well, and contribute to the loss of Bob Sutton in Kansas. Is Wade Phillips the key to any Rams victory, and what do you think he needs to do to stop them?
I think Bob Sutton was going to be on his way out regardless. I really think that defense had fallen off a cliff. But you're absolutely right, because what Brady does and what the Patriots have done is like you go and scatter these teams. They go into the offseason left looking at themselves and wanting to make changes. And, the way he marched down the field and ripped through the Chiefs defense with that offense, that was not a good look. And in terms of Wade Phillips, who was an up-and-down head coach, to me is the mastermind when it comes to defensive coordination. And, he is just able to use so many players, veteran and younger, in such great ways. The thing is, you can still run on this team. The Rams defense is not perfect by any stretch. I do expect Sony Michel to have a solid game. I don't think they're going to move off him. I think that you can still get to them with the screen game. And so the Patriots don't need to change a lot of what we've seen in terms of James White, catching roughly 35 passes, each for like 7 or 8 yards. And I mean, they can operate in some ways. I mean, Edelman is at his best right now. But the best advantage for Wade Phillips is that he's not going to be caught off guard the way the teams were 2 weeks ago. He's seen the playoff version of the Patriots, and that can help. That said, that New England again is always going to come out with surprises, and I think it's the biggest challenge Wade Phillips has faced is the Rams defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I wonder if the similarities in line play, both offensive line and defensive line, the Rams are probably quite similar to the Eagles. Do you sort of see that?
Yeah, I think there are similarities. The difference is when you're the Rams, right now, and they've been getting great play from both. It's obvious that when you have Aaron Donald paired next to Ndamukong Suh, that's a big issue for New England. But New England's offensive line has been utterly pristine. I mean, Tom Brady has not been touched, and we thought that Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa might do it. We thought last week that with the Chiefs, who had as many sacks, tied for the league in sacks, might have a chance to get to Tom Brady, and neither of them touched him. I mean, he just sort of floated free. The only time anyone got to him was when Chris Jones put a hand over his shoulder pad, and they called that roughing the passer, which was absurd. I mean, it was an absurd call. Let's be honest there. But there were no sacks, no takedowns, and if they can't get to him, if Aaron Donald can't, basically have the Aaron Donald game that you want in the Super Bowl, and Ndamukong Suh, who's had 2 great games in a row, to continue that. If they get neutralized, I just don't see how the Rams can slow down the Patriots at all. I just think you need to find a way, and it's so cliche to say this because we say it all the time. It's like the only way to really get into Tom Brady's head is to disrupt him, because you're not 25 anymore. We did see it a couple years ago in the AFC Championship when they lost to the Broncos. I think they had something like 20, 21 quarterback hits, and that game was a vicious, brutal game. That's how you beat the Patriots. I don't really see that from this Rams team. They're not a pass-rushing heavy team. They're going to have to find a way to get up through the middle of the line and into Brady's face. That's a tall order.
Yeah, that really is their strength as well, isn't it, with Mason and Tooney Andrews? Yeah, I totally see what you mean. I mean, you mentioned James White a moment ago, how many receptions he seems to get every single Super Bowl. Last week I felt that Corey Littleton, in covering Alvin Kamara, he probably struggled quite a bit. Do you think that's one of the big factors going in?
I think it is, because, they can use James White in so many different ways, and they can use Edelman up at the line that way. I'll never forget the way they opened the Seahawks Super Bowl, where they basically countered their pass rush with these quick hit little strikes where you're hoping for yards after the catch, and they got it. They got it from James White. In that game, they got it from Edelman, they got it from everyone else. And I just think that you can trust that they're going to find the 2 or 3 best things that the Rams do on defense and neutralize those and expose the weaknesses. It's just what the Patriots do every week. And I think that trying to ask, linebackers and others to cover James White has not worked. So they're going to have to find something else. I think, again, it's like, the Patriots with Brady right now, because he really has almost recaptured his youth in these past 2 weeks. He's getting the ball out so quickly, and he's seen the field so well, and those shouldn't be surprising traits from him at all, but he's really maximized that, where that wasn't, I think when he had that MCL injury earlier in the year, when his play really fell off, I mean, we have no idea what it's like to try to run around a field with people chasing you and trying to destroy you when your knee is not working 100%. He seems healthy now, and I think that's a big problem for the Rams.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate what you mean. Tom Brady is the key, isn't he? His accuracy has just been absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, it's not just about James White, is it? I mean, Edelman he needs 44 yards to go second receiving yards all time in playoffs, which is just incredible. So many weapons.
Yep, and I mean, you look at the Rams, and I think that there's questions coming out of the Saints game, and it starts with Todd Gurley. Like, what is happening with Todd Gurley? Like, these teams don't like to clarify injuries. They want to keep that as hazy as possible. And I just am not convinced that Todd Gurley, who was on the shelf for almost a month and is splitting time with C.J. Anderson, is going to 9 to 10 days from now come out and be the Gurley of October. I just don't know if that's going to happen again this season. The way that he was used, the coaching staff did not show a lot of confidence, I thought, in him, being a bell cow on any level. I mean, he had equal snaps to C.J. Anderson. That's fine. But C.J. Anderson was, cut by 2 teams this year. The Raiders looked at him for about 3 days and got rid of him. It's like somehow he's come in and played a huge role for the Rams. And I think that will continue if Gurley is not able to be at the physical level that he was early in the year.
Yeah, that was a big question last week as to why he, one of the league's best running backs is sitting out in a huge game like the NFC Championship.
Yep.
So slightly a little bit more fun. Last year, you took a well-documented road trip to the Super Bowl with John Gonzalez. Do you have anything special planned for this year?
I wish that that would happen again, but that happened when John Gonzalez was he was a little bit less busy. He had just moved to Los Angeles, and now he's a very busy basketball writer covering the NBA for The Ringer. And he didn't back then. He had pockets of time, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do this road trip. Let's go." But this time, I'm just flying out because that was actually happening when that happened 2 years ago. At this week, I was on the road like this week, getting there a week before Super Bowl. But we're just all flying out Sunday and Monday. And, from what we hear, Atlanta is going to be like an awesome Super Bowl city. So you kind of just land and find out what you're going to do then. I never go in with too many plans other than not to like totally wreck the family bank account, if possible.
Back to the game, boring, I know, but in 2002, it was a 24-year-old Brady up against the greatest show on turf and Kurt Warner. Obviously, now the roles appear to reverse and it's Jared Goff. Do you think he can handle the pressure?
I do. I think Goff played great last week. I think Goff made some incredible throws. And, the offense doesn't need to – now, without Gurley, it's not as true, but this isn't an offense typically that needs to lean on Jared Goff to do everything. They need him to make a couple key throws during the game, and he did that against the Saints. I think is he a young Brady? I don't really know yet. I don't see him that way necessarily, but I do think he's got everything that you'd want to become, in time, a top 5 quarterback. And it helps when you're put in the right situation as a young quarterback, and there really isn't one out there in a better situation than him paired with Sean McVay. So I would say anything is possible. There's no reason to doubt him or to think, for me, that, oh, no, this is a guy that can't live up to the moment, because, he's handled everything they've asked him to do really well. I mean, from start to finish. And that rookie year was really rough, but that had a lot to do with his surroundings. I don't think we ever, we look at quarterbacks and isolate them from everything that's happening around them. And Goff has been put now into a much better situation, and there's a lot of, supporting talent on that team. The coaching staff, Sean McVay, his in-game support with Goff, the way that they communicate and work at the line, that's just such an X factor. So many quarterbacks do not have that happening with their coach to that degree. So I think he's going to completely show up to this game, and I think the Rams are going to keep this close, but I think it'll be a learning. If they can't pull it off, I think they can get back, but it'll be a learning lesson because you're going up against the best. So we'll see. But you know what? People a year ago didn't think the Eagles could pull this off. I mean, anything that we say, anyone attached to this game, and we say all this 2 weeks ahead of time, you can blow most of it up because the game happens. And it's like, oh, no one expected that player to do this or that.
Yeah.
So it's the most unpredictable sport around.
Yeah, I certainly didn't expect Nick Foles to run in for a touchdown last year in the Super Bowl, but he did. So
Right.
I think he's earned himself some money as well, hasn't he? He's probably on his way this year.
Yeah. I mean, who do you guys have winning this game, or is that going to be unveiled later in the show? I don't want to mess with your show here.
So my heart says Rams and my head says Patriots.
Yeah, same.
I just want a good game. They're both playing so well. I just want to be entertained and let whoever wins win.
I think it's funny because and I'm probably way older than you guys. I'm 45, and when I was young, there was a period in the 80s where the NFC won 11 or 12 straight Super Bowls, and on top of it, they were awful games. It was these 50-10 type deals, 35-7, just awful games. You wait 2 weeks, and then it would be such a letdown. This period that we're in right now. And we're allowed to bring a guest with us, and I always bring my wife, and I try to tell her, you've seen, and she knows, but I was like, you've seen 5 or 6 of the greatest Super Bowls ever. So we are in a lucky time period. I also think that the league parity has allowed that to happen. Teams, when you get 2 weeks to prepare, the blowout factor is not as real. I mean, really, outside of the Broncos Panthers one, there really haven't been games that were anything but tight and close right down to the end. I think this will follow form.
What would it take for the Browns to make it next year, do you think?
I think, again, for all the positives around them, they are a team that, again, has a first-year coach for the 5th time in the last 8 years. And that's sort of my whole Patriots thing, is it's going to take so long to catch up to those type of teams. There are the occasional clubs that, shoot through the sky and suddenly they're in the Super Bowl. The Rams are kind of that way. They were a nightmare 3 years ago, and look where they are. And I think that everything changes, obviously, when you find that quarterback. And if Freddie Kitchens can work with Baker Mayfield and the whole team can, push away the drama and the infighting that's really characterized them for the past 20 years, if that truly is in the past, I think the sky's the limit for them on some level because there's a lot of talent. But there's still, the AFC this year was packed with 5 or 6 other teams. Cleveland has to figure out, number one, how do we consistently beat Pittsburgh and Baltimore and the Bengals? I mean, until you can do that, you can't really be talking Super Bowl. And I think it's just baby steps. I think next year you'd like to see them advance in every way on what they do this year, but Super Bowl would be a wildly tall order.
Yeah, they've got a young team, but so talented. I agree.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And Mark, before we let you go, don't know if you woke up feeling dangerous or not today, but do you have any bold predictions for the game?
I have one especially for you, and I really tried to come up with one that I thought, you know what, this is something for some reason that's been on my mind because it's been a while since this happened, and it has happened in past Super Bowls. It happened before the Raiders-Bucks one, and that was not a good situation, and I'm not trying to spin this into a negative scenario. It could happen for many reasons, but I think you're going to get either a player or coach from one of the two teams who's going to go totally AWOL during the week. Like, I mean missing for 2 or 3 days. And it's going to be, because this game, everyone's like, there's no stories attached to this game. You know, this game's boring. There's nothing to talk about. This person going missing is going to give us something to talk about, like a legit unsolved mystery in the middle of the week. I think that he will be found without any issues. There will probably, that person will be safe, but it will be a major drama that throws Super Bowl week completely off its axis. That's what I'm predicting. And, there's nothing at stake here. So if I'm wrong, sorry about that.
Wow.
For a moment there, I thought you were going to say they're going to be found without any clothes.
Well, if
I can't. That's up in the air,
If Sean,
that's up in the air. But I think if someone's going to be gone for 3 days, I mean, they've gotten up to something. It may be the kind of thing that I'm not sure they'll be dressing for the game. Let's put it that way.
If Sean McVay goes missing, he's not in my flat in London. I'm just saying.
Love it.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a great Super Bowl, and we look forward to hearing from you and the rest of the team very soon.
Absolutely, thank you. It was really fun, and I hope we all get a good game, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Now it's time for our second guest of the show. Duncan, you spent 6 months putting this together, so give us an intro.
Thanks, Liz. What can I say about Jerry Rice? He was an absolute phenom. His wiki page describes him as possibly the best player to ever played the game, so it's no underestimation. He holds the career records for most catches, yards and touchdowns. Won 3 Super Bowls with the 49ers and was a 10-time All-Pro. The Patriots traded draft pick number 16 to the 49ers so they could draft him, and we all thank them for that. They did something right. Please enjoy Jerry Rice.
Duncan and I are here with a man who really needs no introduction. A wide receiver who Duncan described to his mum as the NFL's very own Pele. Here he is, the one and only Jerry Rice. Thanks for joining us, Jerry. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Pele, huh? I like that. That is so cool. He's a living legend.
Exactly.
As are you. Jerry, if I could start off at the beginning. You learned very, really valuable skills in becoming a great wide receiver in Crawford, Mississippi, running races against horses and catching bricks in your dad's building sites. Do you feel that there should be more modest beginnings for players today? And, has the world of the NFL player become too diva-ish with not enough work ethic?
You know what? I think it's just a whole different demographic of people now, generation-wise. I was a country boy. I was born in Mississippi, and I had to chase down these horses if you wanted to ride the horse the rest of the day. And, so my parents, what they instilled in me is about hard work and dedication, not taking any shortcuts and earning everything. And my father would take me to work with him because he was a bricklayer, and he would take me to work with him during the summer. And it was difficult work. And it just taught me, toughness and all of that. So, I wouldn't go back and change anything about the way I grew up. Everything was a little bit slower. You had to work a little bit harder, but I think it paid off for me because I was able to play a game for over 20 years. And the lifespan of a football player is about 4 years. And I was able to exceed that. And I played 20 years of NFL football.
It really was an incredible career, and like they say, nothing worth having comes easy. That was fascinating. You have arguably all of the most important career receiving records. Among them, most yards, most catches, most touchdowns, and that's by some distance. Which of them is most important to you that perhaps you would like never to be broken? And can you see any of them ever being broken in today's NFL?
Well, I think records are great, but, you break records with the help of your teammates. So I have always given that credit to my teammates. And which one is most important? I think the most important thing, it was winning Super Bowls for the city of San Francisco. Because you had people to work hard, during the week, and it was like a little bit of a getaway for them on that given Sunday if they paid their hard-earned money, I wanted them to, experience something that was really that was fantastic. That it was greatness on the football field, where they could walk away from that stadium and say, "Wow, can you believe the catch he made or the touchdown that he scored?" So, the records are great, but winning Super Bowls for San Francisco is something I'll never forget.
Do you have a particular favorite Super Bowl, one that was which was your favorite?
They all meant the world to me, and they all brought something special. But, the first one, Super Bowl 23, going into that, I was a rookie my first time, and having to be able, you have to be able to control your nerves, not any wasted energy before the game. And I remember the night before, I couldn't sleep. I was up all night long visualizing, what I had to do in that football game. And it played out that way. But, just Super Bowl 23 on that final drive where Joe Montana came into the huddle and we were behind. We had about 3 minutes, 10 seconds left in the ball game. Joe came in. He was, he was squatting down. He was pulling grass. And we normally use 2-minute drill where you call 2 plays. And someone said something about John Candy being in the stands. And all of a sudden we broke that huddle and I heard complete quietness. And we talk about being in the zone. We talk about all the great players like Pelé, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and stuff like that. You hear players talk about being in the zone a lot. So I was in the zone, and I just knew the importance of making every catch and helping my team move the ball downfield.
That really was an incredible performance. And that fourth quarter was just, it's incredible. It must be so memorable for you.
And moving on to this year's Super Bowl, the Patriots and Rams face off on Sunday. Who do you see having the advantage? Is it the experience of the Patriots, or is it the youth and hunger of the Rams?
I think it's the experience. You always want to go with experience. Tom Brady, he's 41 now, and for some reason, he's angry because he feels like people underestimated them, saying that they're old and it's nothing, they can't play football anymore. And I think they using that as a motivator to, get ready to say, hey, look, you guys take that. You don't know what you're talking about. We're not done, with the Patriots. But when you got Tom Brady, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, Element, the way he's playing, Gronk, the way he's playing, then they have, a very good defense. The experience goes to the Patriots, but now the youth is going to go to the Rams. And Jared Goff, Gurley, hopefully he's 100% and ready to go. C.J. Anderson, they're going to have to be able to run the football, but they got some talented receivers on the outside, and that defense is going to have to be able to shut down the Patriots to have a legitimate chance. So it's going to be a good football game.
Absolutely. And say you were given a choice, would you have preferred to play on the Patriots with Brady as your quarterback, or would you choose the more high-powered offensive play of the Rams?
No, I would have to go with Brady. I would have to go to Brady. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like the greatest quarterback to ever play the game was Joe Montana. And to have that honor of playing with him. And I'm sure, with Element and Gronk and all those guys, they feel like, Tom Brady, he's the greatest to ever play. But, just to be able to catch a ball from this guy and be on the field with him, it would be exciting.
We almost made that too easy for you there, didn't we? If I could just touch on sort of the offensive evolution in the NFL today, an observation I've made for some time now is that a team probably doesn't need an elite wide receiver to win a Super Bowl. In some cases, due to salary cap, it could even be a disadvantage. We've seen receivers win that are labelled pedestrian, for example. And perhaps with the exception of like Alshon Jeffrey, Demaryius Thomas in 2013 and maybe Rob Gronkowski, it could be argued that no team with a truly elite wide receiver has won the Super Bowl since Marvin Harrison in 2006. What would you say to those opinions?
Well, I think it's the different evolution of football now, because you have to run pass option. and it's a totally a different offense now. And back in the day when I played with the Niners, it was more of the West Coast offense, and you had, it was all about timing. And so it's a different offense now, but you still have your playmakers, because the Patriots keep saying that we don't have a number one guy. Their number one guy is Edelman. If Edelman, if he goes, they're gonna win the football game, and I think he's proven that now in the playoffs and what he's doing, because I think like yardage wise, he's almost because I think it's me. I think I'm around 2,000 something. Then you got Michael Irvin. I think he's around 1,700. Then you have Reggie Wayne, and Edelman just passed Reggie Wayne, and no doubt he's probably gonna catch up to Michael Irvin, and he could one day even break my yardage record during the playoffs. So it's like he's the number one guy, and they do a fantastic job with that RPO, and they have the greatest quarterback ever leading them.
That maybe speaks to the fact that no one has come close to your records. That there's a real variety of playmakers just everywhere, all over the pitch, isn't there?
Well, I think the thing too is that you have to have that supporting cast, and I had that supporting cast that really helped me to break so many records. And I had God, Joe Montana. Joe Montana's God. Dwight Clark, Freddie Solomon, all these great players around me, Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, Roger Craig, and it just goes on and on. And I think I came into a situation where I was just one of those guys that had that work ethic. I wanted to earn everything, and I was going to, be the best conditioned athlete on the football field. Yeah. And when you combine all of those things together, man, when you mix all those things together, the sky is the limit.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, with the longevity of your career and everything, just because you're such a, kept yourself in such great condition. There's always talk every season about what it would take for a defensive player to get league MVP, but almost as rare it's for a wide receiver. What do you think it would take for a receiver to win MVP today?
God, that's a good one. That's a good one. I have never looked at it that way, and I think the way the game is going today now is more of a passing game. The ball is going to be in the air more. I think receivers going to have more opportunities. When I played back in the day, if I got maybe 4 or 5 touches, that was about it for a wide receiver. But now you got receivers, getting like over 10 or more opportunities. So I think someone is eventually going to end up, winning the MVP, because these receivers, they're going to have more opportunities on the football field to prove that, hey, look, I'm the guy.
That does, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe the last one who came close, probably Calvin Johnson.
I remember him back in the day, and this guy was just, oh my God. I had never seen a guy like 6'5" that was so fast. Well, Randy Moss was the same way. Randy was one of those guys, he was 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", but he was not as big as Calvin Johnson. And the way he was able to get downfield, go up and attack the football, it was just something, it was just unbelievable to watch.
He really was a big loss to the league when he retired as well. In recent years, we've seen that evolution in the makeup of an NFL defense. Say the Rams under Sean McVay, Mahomes now at the Chiefs. It's very different. And teams are looking for new head coaches. They're trying to find the next great offensive mind. What have been your observations, and what do you think caused this move? Do you see it continuing?
With the offensive line?
Just the offenses in general. It's become more college-like, perhaps. Maybe because that's the type of quarterback that's succeeding.
Well, I think it's become more collegiate-like, is because they want those players from college to be able to come in and just be able to adapt faster. So, you run in that system in college. So now you run in that system in the NFL, and now those players can come right in and just contribute to the team. So, that was something that I was stunned to see the NFL go that direction. But when you sit back and you look at the whole picture, now these players, they can get acclimated much faster, and they can help their team, whoever they get drafted to.
Yeah, they can jump straight in and start performing straight away because they're used to those plays, those concepts. Do you think that the more high-powered offenses of today could be compared to your Satellite Express in college?
And yeah, the Satellite Express, we threw the ball like 90% of the time. The ball was always in the air. It was fun though, but you had to be conditioned. You had to be in tip-top shape, and you had to have a supporting line to keep the quarterback upright. And you look at what happened with the Patriots. Tom Brady, you got defenders, they can hands on him. The offensive line of the Patriots, they're doing such a fantastic job keeping him upright, where he doesn't have to rush, to where he can make good decisions and throw the ball downfield.
That line is so well coached. I think it's Dante Scarnecchia. He's just got them doing everything right. Very impressive.
Now, Jerry, as you know, we're a UK-based podcast, and it was announced this week that we are going to have 4 very exciting-looking games in the UK next season. And I understand that you're an NFLUK ambassador now?
Yes, I'm an ambassador, and I'll be coming over that way. I always enjoy coming to London. Even when we, as a San Francisco 49ers, we used to come there during preseason to have a preseason game. But every game was important to me. And whenever I put on that uniform, I wanted to, do something special on that given day for the fans. So I have always enjoyed coming there. I'm an ambassador now, and I was always curious because when I would even come, after I think last year they had about 3 regular season games. When I would come over that way, it was so many Niner fans.
Yeah.
It used to blow me away. I was like, this is so cool. I'm looking around and I see all the jerseys, from the Niners and stuff like that. I thought it was so cool. But we have a lot of fans there, and I look forward to coming over to help promote the game.
Yeah, which is fantastic. So what will your role involve?
I played it for over 20 years, and I never looked at it like it was a job. And it was fun. It was so much fun for me, and so just spreading the news about NFL football, and it's like the game done changed a lot now, because like I said, it's the RPO, the run pass option, but still, the tackling, all of that stuff, how they are trying to protect players more, and I still think it's the greatest game ever, and it's something I would never forget.
Fantastic. And obviously this season just gone, Seattle Seahawks were over, and Walter Jones was mixing it with the fans, and he was loving London nightlife. Will you be hanging out and about?
Oh, of course. I got to come and have a good time. So, yeah, I just love people. I love people, and, to be able just to make someone's day, just by taking a picture or signing an autograph, I feel like I'm very fortunate. And I just, I love to be around people that love football and people that, that like the San Francisco 49ers.
Fantastic. Well, each year when the games are over in London, we'll always kind of host an event the night before. So we'll have to try and drag you along.
Yeah, just make sure, just say, if you hear about me being in town or something like that, just give me a shout out, and I'll make sure I show up, and we'll have a great time.
That's awesome. Well, look, Jerry, this has been fantastic, and thank you so much for spending some of your day with us. We really, really appreciate it. And just want to say best of luck with everything, and hopefully see you in September.
Thank you so much, and I just want to say to the people in the UK, we love you guys. You guys treat us so well when we come there, and I'm looking forward to just hanging out and having a good time, okay?
Now, I just thought he was incredible. The subject around elite wide receivers in a modern game, it sounds like something we can explore in the off-season. But what else did you guys make of that?
Do you know, I was just surprised how humble he was. He was, you asked him about his records, and he's all about the city of San Francisco and the Super Bowl wins. And although, you pick up on, he knows exactly what his records are and how close everyone is. He mentioned Edelman in there. He's going to be second to him probably after this game in postseason yardage. But it's great to hear, just such great stories.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating. Definitely, great that you got him on the show, Duncan. And for me, I think it's hard to compare, obviously, because it's such a different style of football like the league is now compared to what it was when he played. But if you were to compare with anyone at the moment, you'd maybe say Larry Fitzgerald. He's been posted 3 straight 100-catch seasons prior to 2018, and that's with, slightly average quarterbacks. And he's actually second for most receiving yards in NFL history. He sits at 16,249 yards in total. So it's quite interesting. If we ever got to speak to Larry Fitzgerald, see what he would be like about his stats.
We'll get him next.
Yeah, no pressure, Dunk. We just need him now in sort of 6 months' time. So start work now and you'll be set up right. Yeah, it's great. And a lot of these guys, they know that their records one day might be beaten, but the rings and things like that, they live on forever. You can never take that out of the record book. That will never be rewritten. He might not be the leading receiver in all the categories he is and all the things he owns now in 10, 15 years' time, especially with the way the league's going. But those things that he won and the way he did it, that stands above everything else. And the way he did it in that era is the biggest thing. In terms of anyone who matches up, I mean, you've obviously got Larry Fitzgerald, who's brilliant. You had Calvin Johnson, who was an absolute beast in his own right, and had he have continued on with his career, could easily have smashed many of those records playing with Matt Stafford. The only thing you've got is you've got nobody that's got the rings and the yards. You've got Edelman, who's got all the rings now, and that's why he's now getting this Hall of Fame conversation that I don't even want to get into because that's just a messy subject. You've got him with all the rings, you've got Fitz with all the yards, but you don't have someone that combines the two like Jerry Rice did, and that's what truly makes him one of the best and probably the best all time at the wide receiver position.
Incredible records. I don't see him ever getting beaten. He's just by some distance. It's incredible. It's a different game today as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot harder to reach that sort of level. But you never know. You never know.
So back to the job at hand. We are just a few days away from the Super Bowl. Marc Sessler gave us his prediction. How do you see the game going?
Well, I did a story earlier on Tom Brady about how he said there was zero chance of him retiring after the Super Bowl if he wins or loses, which I absolutely have been saying for ages. I think that is going to happen. I don't see him retiring anytime soon. And I think the Patriots are going to win. My heart and my head's been fighting all week, so I'm rooting for the Rams. Probably still through gritted teeth, though, because they are NFC West division rivals, obviously being a Seattle Seahawks fan. But I just think Bill Belichick just has game management down to a T, and I just think he's going to find them out. And I've said before the season, the Rams can be found out, and they have been, on the lead up to the playoffs. Just before in December, they lost a couple of games. So yeah, I think we're going to see Tom Brady lifting that trophy again, their 6th ring, and I don't see him sailing off into the sunset quite yet.
I hope he doesn't sail off into the sunset. I really do. And I was very pleased to hear that. I mean, I'm not going to ever say at times it's been painful watching Tom Brady this year, but he has shown his signs of aging. But I think a lot of it was just simply that he knew they were going to be somewhere around this position, the divisional round, the maybe even the wildcard round, if that's what they had to play, the conference championships. And he was just getting himself there. It was no use them going 16-0 this year, only for him to get injured at some point, standing in the pocket and taking shots. So I'm really pleased to see him again. I mean, every year that personally, I feel that we get to watch Brady as a privilege. I know for some of you guys, that's probably not how you feel. You're probably extremely tired of seeing him. I'm like Shona, my head and my heart are wrestling with this. I actually want the Patriots to win, but I actually think the Rams have enough offensive talent to stop the Belichick mantra of taking your best weapon away, because if he focuses on Gurley, then Cooks and Woods will beat you. If he focuses on Cooks and Woods, then Gurley's going to beat you. It's very difficult. But what Shona said about time management and all of that's going to be key, because there have been times this year where Sean McVay has wasted timeouts, and you're looking down at the clock going, call a timeout, and you realise he hasn't got any. And that's not something you can afford to do against Belichick. He's the master of that kind of thing. He will stay completely composed on the opposing sideline, and at some point he's going to cause that issue that Pete Carroll had a few years ago, where he's going to be looking at Belichick going, why aren't you calling the timeout? And panic will set in, and I just worry how McVay handles that. But I think the Rams have enough firepower to get through all of that.
You had to mention Pete Carroll, didn't you?
That's my one shot of the podcast. I will not do it again.
I'll tell you what, I've got no great affinity for either side, but I really do appreciate what they've done this year. As I said to Marc Sessler, I just want to see a good football game. And, I had obviously not much love for the Patriots, but having seen them against Kansas City and Brady's accuracy just blew me away. You can talk about how his arm strength, his age and what have you, but he's just still so accurate and impressive. It was great. And in terms of matchups, I want to see Donald and Sue against that offensive line. And I want to see what Sean McVay cooks up in the receiving game and whether Belichick can take it on, because they're always, you watch the Rams and their receivers are always so open. But, Belichick's had a plan all along. For other teams, against Mahomes and Hill, and for example. So I'm just looking forward to a good game, just to see these matchups. I'd love to see Gurley do well again. I was a big fan of his throughout college. And of course, his old college teammate is on the other team this year, Sonny Michel. So see which one of them does well. And so, just looking forward to a spectacle,
I think Belichick said as well last week that he thinks Aaron Donald is going to have a day. Which that could be quite interesting to see, because I think one thing that I've noticed with Brady is if you do get into his head, which is quite hard to do, then he does get rattled, and I think Aaron Donald is a player that can do that.
Yeah, and I know it's cliche, the whole pressure up the middle thing, because every quarterback struggles with pressure up the middle. If you have Aaron Donald running straight through the middle of your offensive line, I'd panic. I think Drew Brees panicked. I think everybody would panic in that situation, but we've seen that as the method to beat Brady in Super Bowls. In 2 of the 3 that he's lost, it's been because of not just pressure from the outside, but pressure up the middle as well. It's been intelligent schemes. And that's one thing that Wade Phillips can do. He is a very intelligent defensive coordinator. And I agree with you, Dunk. I just want to see a great game. I want to see lots of matchups. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to see the Patriots sail off 30-0 at halftime. That would be absolutely heaven in some ways. But also, it would be a little bit boring, because that's not what I've become used to with the Patriots. I mean, I've been campaigning on Twitter that the Patriots are not a boring Super Bowl. They are anything but. They've been fascinating. But of the 3 games, and I apologise to you two because this is going to bring back bad memories, but I want to see a repeat of this kind of Seattle Seahawks game, a tight, back-and-forth affair where both teams are in it, both teams have a shot to win it late. The Atlanta game was fun. The Philly game was fun. But that game against Seattle, that was pure football at its best. And I'd love to see a game like that.
Do you know, that was probably one of the best Super Bowls of all time. And I still haven't been able to watch it for a second time. I just can't do it.
No, I can't watch that game for a second time. Even though it was brilliant to watch for the first time, I still haven't quite forgiven Tom Cable or Pete Carroll for that. But yeah, I'll just move on, because if I start delving into that game, I might cry live on the podcast. So
yeah, let's avoid that. I'd feel very, very guilty if I brought it up and you cried on the podcast. No one wants to cause anybody to cry on a podcast.
Exactly.
So yeah, it just needs to be a fun game, and I mean that's for everybody. The only thing that for you guys is going to make the Patriots bearable keep being in these Super Bowls is if they make it a fun game.
Absolutely. Could you imagine the state of Twitter if it was 13-0 at half time? I mean,
I think I'd have to get really drunk to enjoy the second half.
I think most people would be extremely drunk to enjoy the second half at that point. That was the area I was going with the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl. I was in the kitchen getting extremely drunk when Matt Ryan got strip sacked at that time, and my friend in the lounge just squealed. And yeah, that'd be how everybody would be feeling, I think, if the Patriots were up that far. Whereas I think everybody was getting drunk at that time in celebration.
I guess we just hope for another memorable one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, lots of good matchups, Dunk.
We actually have one question via our Twitter at 99 yards. It's from Touchdown Cam FM. He says, while Brady's the GOAT, should he really be called that? Because there are other quarterbacks with better numbers. but had the bad luck of not being on a Bill Belichick coach team. What do you guys reckon?
So that's quite funny that this question was asked, because I was actually discussing it today in work, and everyone was saying that they think Brady is the greatest of all time. And me being the avid NFL fan, I kind of piped up and said it's quite hard to compare. Like I mentioned earlier with Jerry Rice and like Larry Fitzgerald, it's different eras and it's different styles of play. And I think personally, if you're going to say anyone's the greatest of all time, it's Bill, because he's the guy that's managed the games. The teams have changed, and still every year, he's killing it and getting into the playoffs. And
yeah,
it's their 9th Super Bowl, I think, or Tom Brady's 9th Super Bowl that he's going to be in.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He's won 5, lost 3, and this will be his 9th. I actually agree with you. I hate the Tom Brady GOAT conversation, even as a Patriots fan. I've had conversations around it on Twitter with people, but my thing is more that is people trying to say that like Aaron Rodgers and people like that are better than him. Talent-wise, yes, but Brady's longevity in this current era makes him so much more than what other guys have done recently. And I do agree with you. I would love to have seen Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning with Bill Belichick scheming their defense. There would have just been endless possibilities. I can't even begin to imagine how many times those guys would have gone to Super Bowls with that level of genius on the other side. I think the conversation should be around Bill Belichick, but that's what a good head coach does. He keeps the conversation off himself and doesn't draw attention to himself. So unless someone else artificially brings that up in media week and media row, I just see this all being about Brady again. And that's what I find a little bit tiresome. And I can see why you guys find it tiresome about the Patriots being in the Super Bowl. Same narratives every single time. It's just going to be fun that hopefully we get a lot of focus on the Rams this week.
For me, it's definitely the team that Bill built. Every couple of years they reload, and it's just impressive every time. And while Brady is a great quarterback, I mean, I can't get on board with any GOAT conversation because I just don't understand the criteria. Tom Brady's got the jewelry, but Breeze has the records, and then you take it out of the quarterback. You've got Jerry Rice, who came on this podcast, so he gets extra points for that. And I like good trench play. Is a left tackle in the post Lawrence Taylor years just as important as having Tom Brady or a game manager quarterback that can win you 12 games a year without much around him. I just don't understand what it's for, or just how you judge it. It just baffles me.
I think once you take it out of the quarterback position and compare it to other players in the league, it's very hard to compare. I think Bob Kraft said the other day he actually thinks Brady is the greatest player of all time, which obviously he would say because he owns the team. But that's impossible in my eyes to compare. Very different positions, like you mentioned, Duncan. You have some incredible people who have came before.
Yeah, no position in the NFL is like the quarterback position. It's a completely different ball game, almost, what those guys are doing to what everybody else is doing. There are similarities between receivers and running backs, but again, they're miles away from what offensive linemen are doing. The only thing that links them is that you got the tight end position that sort of does a bit of both. So just one thing I will say, Duncan, is if we include postseason, which we should, Brady has all the yards and the records, because that's a bit like in international football, not counting World Cups under your stats. It seems a bit bizarre to me to not count it, but let's not get into that one right now.
Let's not. Let's draw a line under it right there.
Well, that's all for this week's show. Thank you to Shona, Duncan and Ben for joining us, and to Marc Sessler and Jerry Rice for taking the time out to join us too. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the topics we've discussed, and of course any feedback you may have. You can tweet us at 99yards. And finally, if you're a regular listener and enjoy our show, we'd love you to leave us a star review via Apple Podcasts or the provider you're listening to us through. That's all from me. Thanks for listening.